It was pitch dark and the late-night tuition had just ended. The exam was just around the corner, and the students needed all the help they could get. Once all staff and students had gone, the owner of the tuition place went to each room to check the lights and clear up what was needed. He turned off the light and was on his way home. On his way back, the man took a dark route and was walking when he saw something in the dark. A man was stumbling in a corner. The first man came to a stop and watched the other man. He seemed to be crippled and was supporting himself on a stick. But his movements were uneven, like he was stumbling at the same time moving like he was dancing. This was the shortest route to his house, and all the first man wanted to do was collapse on his bed and sleep. So, he took the chance and proceeded. No sooner had he walked that the man stopped and seemed to turn all of a sudden to him. That was also the time the first man realized what the stumbling man was balancing himself on: an axe. Both men stared at each other in the dark path, and all of a sudden, the axe man moved. The first man ran, and the second man rushed in as fast as he could. Luckily, the first man passed him, but he did not stop and kept on running till he reached his house. He struggled with his keys and then managed to stick the right one in the keyhole, and after a satisfying click, he was about to push the door open. The second man brought down the axe and cracked open the first man's head. Zone 2 is a town that is always safe. Women roam freely at night without fear. Children have no fear, and abusers are punished by an urban legend. When one asks if this is true, there is no correct answer to that. The abusers usually disappear as if they have never existed. In this white hospital, there is not much to do. The room is padded white, and the only ones she can see are the giant stuffed rabbit in the corner and a raccoon in the other. When Lucy is let out of the room, she often meets a man named Derek. He tells her that there is nothing in her room and allows her to stay for a while, then back in the room until she is to take her pills. As far as she had seen, the rest of the place is deadly white, and the nurses there don't talk. But that's okay. Lucy can talk to the raccoon and rabbit. It was just another day. Lucy was brought out of the room and into Dr. Derek's room. He asked her to draw her friends, and she did so. This is not a rabbit. Dr. Derek looked at the grotesque version of the animal and said, "Rabbits are medium-sized and have 2 front teeth. Can I see what it is supposed to look like?" Lucy asked. Derek went through some papers and showed Lucy the picture. "My rabbit is a lot different." Lucy mumbled, "And can you show me the raccoon?" The man asked, and Lucy brought out her paintings. "You're not remembering it well." Derek said, "Here's a raccoon." Lucy looked at the picture. "Is this a real animal?" She smiled. "It's so cute. Now let's focus on getting these pictures right." Lucy tried to picture the images, but her eyes landed on the newspaper on the table. Curiously, she looked at it and saw a man with an axe. "Okay," Derek said, looking at his wristwatch. "Time for you to go back." Lucy looked up at the man and pointed at the newspaper. "Why is that man holding an axe?" "Well," Derek said, looking over at the newspaper, "it's a movie poster where the man, unalive bad people with his axe." So Lucy smiled, like a hero? You can say. The doctor smiled. "Run along now. I want to use the bathroom first." The patient said, "Ask for one of the nurses." Derek reminded her. A nurse stood outside the toilet stall. She was about to ask if Lucy was done when she heard a grunt. She carefully walked to the source. "Hello?" There was no response, and she walked further out of the toilet. Lucy flushed the toilet and walked out of the stall. "Nurse, I'm done." Lucy walked over to the wash basin and washed her hands. She walked out of the toilet. There was a strange silence in the hallway. She looked down and saw a trail of water and something red on the floor. "Hello?" She called out, "Hello?" She walked towards her room, but stopped dead on her track when she noticed the exit gates were wide open. Lucy was warned about the outside and that she was never to exit. But her curiosity overwhelmed her, and she took steps out of the building. She gasped aloud and looked around. She felt the wind for the first time, and the rustling of leaves was like the sounds of heaven for her. "Lucy! Lucy! Run!" She looked over to see a woman crying out. That was also when the group of men looked at her. "Run!" the nurse cried out. "Run! Lucy! Run!" Right in front of her eyes, one of the men shot the woman in her head. In a few seconds, the body of the nurse became motionless. Fear filled Lucy as the man with the largest knife approached her. "Why, hello." His voice was smiling. Lucy tried to run, but a rock collided with her head and she fell. "Hero, I need a hero." Blood poured down her head as Lucy struggled to get away. As she struggled to move, she felt someone kick her in the stomach. A hero. Her fading thoughts were of the words of the doctor, unalive people with his axe. A hero to beat the bad men. A shot was fired and Lucy remained motionless. "That was easy." "Yeah." The men cheered, but stopped when they heard the door slowly swinging open. "I'll take care of this," one of them said and approached the door with his gun. He aimed his weapon at the door and immediately crashed to the ground, head split open. The men yelled and rushed to their fallen comrade and to the attacker. The news report said that all of the residents of the Asha Mental Hospital were murdered by a group of assailants sent by John Wakens, a businessman, after Mr. Wakens had a falling out with the owner of the Asha Medical President. However, the assailants were found murdered in the same place with wounds supposedly made by something heavy and sharp. Police are on the lookout for the one responsible for it. It is an urgent police request for people to be on the lookout and to walk in pairs, as there is a high probability that the assailant is still in Zone 2. 20 years later. Why are you collecting these stories? Mila's friend asks, looking at the newspaper clippings on her messy desk. "Sure. Don't talk." Mila replied, looking at the papers and writing notes. "I want to gather all the news of this land. There is something wrong with this place. Everything's wrong with this place." Her friend replied, sitting on the opposite desk in the library, "Uncaring chief minister, traffic lights that don't work and potholes everywhere." A silence passed between them. Mila's friend finally sighed and took out her phone. "I'll get you in touch with someone who knows a lot of stories about Gam," she said. "You're the best, honey." Mila smiled. "Vanilla milkshake on me. Don't go around telling other people." Her friend warned, "Her name is Julia. She runs a mortuary and a palm reading shop. Must be old. Please." Her friend replied, "She's younger than us." She got up and, "Remember, don't mention anything about this to anyone." "I wouldn't." The palm reading shop was in the corner of a shopping mall. It was hard to find since it looked so much like the other shops. Mila was surprised. The interiors were light. It was like a nail salon, and less like something related to the occult. "Miss Julia?" Mila walked into the shop. Julia looked up and visibly froze. Then she smiled. "Welcome, Miss Mila."